Welcome to the DL. This is the show where we talk about everything in the truck and equipment repair industry. It's my job to help inform and educate you on ways to help your business. We talk with technicians, business owners, associations, industry experts, manufacturers, and even a few you wouldn't think traditionally apply to your business. Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of the DL. I am your host, Tyler Robertson, and this is the podcast show where we talk about everything out there to do, essentially with running a business in the heavy equipment or the truck industry. We talk about the repair side of things. We like to mix it all up. And I have to say, this episode today is really a first for me, or a second maybe. So the episode before this was literally with someone from Israel. So our first international interview that we did. And today, now, our second one in a row, we have someone else from across the pond. So coming all the way from Scotland, I have Nick with us. So Nick, welcome to this show, sir.
Thanks for having me on the show. Yeah, it's evening here, probably afternoon there, but thanks for having me.
Yeah, so, obviously we're going to talk about the whole European, U.S. thing here as we start talking about your product and everything. But you're here representing CBUS 21. Why don't we talk a little bit? Why don't you just give a kind of overview on what is that? Explain it to everybody.
Of course. Like in a nutshell, we've seen the dual fuel systems going around. We're actually not a dual fuel. We're an additive system, and actually not a fuel additive. Actually, when you dig deep, it's a air additive, because where we're coming in is actually through the air intake. But to cut a long story short, what we're doing is we're cutting up the diesel molecules with our invention. And what we actually do is cut them up in smaller pieces so they burn more efficiently and in a cooler burn. So what do you get after that is a more efficient burn. You get more out of one diesel molecule, so you actually don't need as much diesel for the same amount of power required. And because it's a cooler burn, you actually reduce your maintenance. So like in that sense, it's a cleaner engine.
So let's narrow this down a little bit here more. So when I'm used to hearing people talk the word additive, right? I'm used to people like, oh, dump a gallon of this in your fuel or throw this in your oil or do whatever. Yours, from what I can gather, is actually like a system you put on the truck, right?
Yeah.
So can you explain kind of a little bit more about like what physically gets installed on the truck, and let's talk about that for a minute.
So I always say it's almost like the size of a PlayStation, right? So like when if you go on a website, you see a picture of it. So that's our, call it, that's our secret sauce. That's where we have our system, where the secret sauce lies and where the chemistry happens. So that gets installed, and other than that, actually, it's only a couple of pipes that gets to the manifold, and that's it. It can be installed, of course, before the truck is actually manufactured. It can be done during the process, or it can be done as after the truck has been manufactured. And any new trucks, secondhand trucks, we come in and install it afterwards.
So you have this tank that you install in the truck with a system, and it connects to the air intake as you were talking about there and everything. Yeah. Like what's the tank holding? Is it holding an additive that you're selling? Is it holding some other gas? Like what's the person putting in the tank?
So the biggest thing is actually our chemistry. So that's the kind of the monitor that you see. But other than that, what we're using as an air additive, at the moment it's LPG, but that can be hydrogen, that can be, so like anything that does the fracking for us, it's the same as like, the cracking of a barrel of oil. It's the same kind of thing. So what we do, it's actually less than 5%. So that's why it can't even be seen as a dual fuel. It's an additive. Because when you say, like, of course LPG is a cheaper fuel, so let's change the diesel for LPG. That's not what we're doing. We're actually only introducing less than 5% to actually do the chemistry for us.
Okay, so you have this tank on there. It's connected to the engine, obviously, or their intake. The driver's putting in LNG there. I saw your website mention some other chemicals. You kind of mentioned that as well. So is this when people buy this, is it a one-time purchase from you guys and I got this system and they do their own thing, or is there ongoing costs they have involved in it, or what? How does that work?
No, so like the big thing for us is, and we shout about it in the sense that we'd like the industry to become cleaner and leaner. Like we don't want someone just to say we're greener, but you feel it too much in your own pocket, your back pocket. So the big thing that we actually have is you can install it on a lease basis, in a sense where actually you never pay anything out of it, because what happens with this is we install it and it takes around like an hour for our engineers to install it, and you can take, like, even if you sell your truck, you can sell it with the system on, or you take it off and put it onto your new truck. And from that sense, it's our system, and then it's together with the LPG that we install it with, use it as a gas, and there's no further ongoing cost. It's just a monthly lease cost, or you can purchase the system outright. But what we've seen so far is actually it makes more sense to do it on a lease basis, because what you get with that as well is you get our ongoing maintenance. Our engineers who are qualified to install and to maintain the system. But actually, it's not that difficult, and it's like LED lighting, right? You put a new LED light in your lamp, and that will last for the next 5 years. You don't really need to look at it. That's basically what our system does. There's barely any maintenance.
So the reason I'm asking these questions is I come from working for truck dealerships, right? So I was a service manager, I was a parts manager, I sold trucks, I did all those things, and the OEMs are pretty adamant. Don't ever put anything on my truck besides what's in the owner's manual, right? Like, and that was that way for a long time. And then I saw Cummins a couple of years ago actually approved a couple additives for fuel and some oil or whatever it was. So I know there's some value there, but there's also, all that scammy, like, hey, strap this thing to your radiator hose and you're going to get 10 miles a gallon miraculously, right? And there's everything in between that whole thing. So I know I'm a real, like, kind of non-believer guy, like, hey, show me, right? Like, I don't know, does it work? Does it not work? Surely you guys run across that when you're talking to customers. Is this real? Does it work? So how do you guys overcome those objections, and what's that conversation look like when you're talking to people?
Every single day. I always say that we suffer from a syndrome which is called too good to be true. Because when we talk to anyone that we speak to, actually, they say, like, if what you say you have works, it's more valuable than gold dust. And we are aware of that in a sense, but the main thing that the proof is in the pudding, right? So, like, say what you do, and that's basically where we're coming from. We're like, rather than shouting out about it, we need to do that in some sense, but other than that, we rather show what it does. We had an independent report done by when we put it on a Scania truck, and they digested the engine afterwards, and the whole engine is cleaner. So, because normally, where they say that normally there's a buildup of oil or residue or whatever it might be after running our system for like 2 months. There's actually none.
So let's talk about that for a second. So there's obviously benefits. We kind of talked about a little bit in conversation, but let's dive a little bit deeper into that. So someone leases or buys your system, they install it. It's going to be on that truck for a couple years. What are the expectations now that customer can expect now that they're running CBus 21 on their vehicle?
Yeah, so like, of course, that depends on what kind of like truck you're running. If it's you got the Euro 6, Euro 5, whatever it all is, like these kind of types, or an older truck, a newer truck, it doesn't really matter that much for us. But it could affect it in a sense where at the moment that we say what we have right now is the first iPhone. That's how we kind of like explain it, where we are doing some R&D at the moment to actually jump straight away into iPhone 10, where the benefits of the system will increase. But the good thing is when you do the lease, your old product gets renewed with a new one. So you're never really out of like, an iPhone, but in that sense, you always have the latest technology on your truck. Talking about figures, And that's not always just fuel savings. And, like we're talking about NOxes, we're talking about like CO2 and particulars. So what we've seen so far is an average of around 20 to 25% on a truck. But what we have seen as well on a refuse truck, where we actually exceeded over 30%. And we know we can reach that, but that's just
I'm sorry. Is that fuel economy savings, or is that?
Yeah.
You mean, okay, yeah. So fuel economy savings is the big driver here.
Well, that's the big driver, and then your CO2 kind of like is aligned with that. That normally goes hand in hand with your fuel saving, and then the NOxes we've seen up to 97%. On average, we get like a reduction of around 83%.
Okay, so cleaner emissions, better fuel economy. You're right, does sound a lot like gold dust, right? But I get what you're saying. So, we've been talking, people understand, hey, you're from Scotland, that's Europe, you're European. Well, first of all, how long has the company been around for? Can you tell me how many installs are out there? Or give an idea of kind of where you guys are at? I know you just said, hey, we're Gen 1. I get it. Yeah. You're not, this huge conglomerate company, but it sounds like you guys have a product. You've spent some time, some engineering. What's it been like in the market? What's the market response been so far?
So the biggest thing is what we're doing right now is like most of our systems are being trialed, as in real life trials, because when people say, okay, we've got a fleet of 1,000, we've got a fleet of 100, whatever it might be, no one is going to order 100 or 1,000 straight away. Everybody's like, okay, we would like to see this with our own eyes. And fair enough. That's I think that's the best way forward. So we've got around like 10 systems running around at the moment with clients that after the initial trial, we kind of have letters of intent that say like if it does what you say it does, which we know, and we monitor all this like on a weekly basis. So our engineers are like on top of that. We install the rest, and everybody so far has been like saying the performance is better, the maintenance is less, like we get a better fuel economy out of the trucks. And the good thing is to put that in perspective, the biggest question we always get is, what about our warranties, right? And that's always a big one, where we're backed up by a couple of very large global insurance companies that said, without a problem, we're backing you up. So we do a full back-to-back warranty replacement. If manufacturer says, if you put anything on our truck that falls, that's fine, we'll take that off you.
Okay, so the people trying these things out are buying and have a little bit of confidence. Hey, this thing blows up my engine. There's an insurance company involved in this thing. We're gonna take care. I'm assuming you haven't had any insurance claims yet.
No, we've actually, like, our system. And I want to touch wood here, because you don't want to say these things out loud. But I would say, like, it's performing. It's even outperforming our wildest dreams. We know the system, we know the strategy, and we know our how the product works and behaves. With our engineers involved. But the way it's actually working at the moment, it's going way better than we actually thought it would.
So you're in Europe essentially. We're over here in the United States. We got the EPA, and we got CARB, who's even more stricter than the EPA in a lot of regards. Is this product available over here? If it's not, is it eventually available? Where are you at? Or is it just, hey, we're gonna lock down Europe first, and we're gonna worry about over the pond, in the future?
No, so that's my main. That's always been my main goal when I was brought on board. Was actually to tackle foreign markets. One of the major bonuses about our system is that it's manufactured through a company called TT Electronics. The biggest thing is they've got their main base in the US. So what we're all about is, whenever we manufacture something, we find it's best if it's manufactured on the grounds where it's actually been installed. So when we get clients over in the US, like we're about to set up in the US, where we've got some partnerships going on, we've got some great conversations going on. Like, I think we're a couple of months away of actually I don't want to say the C word during a call like this, but like, COVID has restricted us not coming over.
Yeah.
I think if it wasn't for COVID, we would have probably had operation up and running, most likely somewhere in Texas.
Okay. Yeah. Well, hey, for what it's worth, we just opened a facility in Texas. So Texas is a great place to do business with. It was easy to get established over there. I don't know if it's that way for international companies, but it was very easy for us already being in the United States. So you plan to be in the United States. Are you looking for installers? Are you looking for sales reps? Is there anything you're looking for, I guess, resource-wise, just more trial customers? What would you be looking for if someone's listened to this and is somewhat interested?
Well, so this is the biggest thing. It's always been word of mouth in one sense, and like we've got a great network with a lot of individuals, and we most likely have loads of these individuals shared, and we are partnering up with a sales company that's going to help us like some initial sales. But on the other side, the main thing that we will be looking for is installers. So what we're doing currently, we've got 2 of our head engineers, and they will be setting up a testing and a teaching facility, a training facility in the US to kind of get installers to come over. We do it, I think it's a 2 or 3 day training to then get certified as a Cybers 21 certified engineer to be able to install these. And then the best thing is if you bring new clients and you can install them, we're bringing out more jobs in that sense. And the way we see the market going, we need quite a few installers.
Well, for the listeners that are watching or listening to this thing right now, there you go, opportunity out there, right? He's looking for installers. You run a repair shop. Wouldn't hurt to reach out to you at all. Usually I do this kind of at the end, but if people do want to reach out to you, what's the best way to get a hold of you? I know you're all over LinkedIn. I see the posts all the time. That's one spot. But how do they get a hold of you? And I don't think I even dropped your last name in this conversation, so you might want to throw that out there too.
Yeah, so the best thing, probably as you say, like Nick Roemer. So on LinkedIn, I'm quite heavily on LinkedIn. Otherwise, get onto our website, www.cybers21.com. Our email addresses are on there that will probably go to me directly, or my phone number is on LinkedIn. Other than that, I'm always reachable.
So a couple more questions about the product before we wrap this one up. So when someone does buy one, is there a warranty that comes with it? And what kind of warranty does that look like?
Yeah, so it does come with a warranty. Like for us, that's one of the biggest things. You can claim what you do and not, bring it out with a warranty. So it comes with a full end-to-end warranty. And that can either be an extended warranty. So normally we do a 3-year warranty. That's in line with a manufacturer's warranty, or we can extend it to a 5 or even a 7 if wanted to. Of course, that's on an extra cost, but 3 is standard that comes with the product.
So I know people do a lot of this for ROI, and I know there's some other benefits here, right? Cleaner, less emissions, all that. A lot of business owners look for an ROI. Is there an indication of what you can tell people to expect for an ROI? Like, is this hey, you're not going to get your money back for 2 years doing this product, or is it like right out of the chute because I'm leasing it? Like, how do you explain the economics to somebody on this?
Well, so there's as you already mentioned it. There's 2 ways of buying the product. You do a leasing model, so you pay a monthly fee, and that comes with the benefits of then having the maintenance contract with it. It's similar as when you're buying a car, right? That's the same thing. The good thing about that is there's, like say 90% of the hauliers in the US are the smaller guys. Don't get me wrong, we would like to tackle the big guys as well, but it's, and I've had numerous conversations with the smaller guys, and they're like, I would love to buy one, but I don't have 15, at the moment they go for $15,000, right? But if you say, okay, it's a leasing model and it's $300 a month, there's a different economy scale here, where if we can save you $1,000 a month, but you're only paying $300, you actually never pay a penny. And if you want to buy it outright, that's fine. You can do that as well. And we kind of have, on average, you will have your ROI in less than 12 months.
Okay. Well, hey, for what it's worth, we focus on the little guys to grow our company, and that's still our core customer base. We love the smaller companies. They're great to work with. They're definitely not afraid to give you feedback, and they're usually those guys that are in the trenches all day long, and they can just tell you where you suck or where you're awesome at, right? So the bigger ones, man, and I'll tell you what, every big company you've ever dealt with, I don't know if we've closed a deal in less than 6 months, and most of them go for like a year before someone's ready to sign off and do a deal with us. So I think you're taking the right strategy there with everything. So I think it's been great learning about this whole product. And again, I'm a dealership guy. That's where I came from. But obviously I'm in the aftermarket world. I've seen aftermarket stuff. I'll say I'm definitely I'm cautiously curious. Like I think you got something going on there. Obviously the proof's always in the pudding. It sounds like you're doing all the right things and talking to people and you're getting conversation going with everybody. And it just takes time and money, man. At the end of the day, is what it sounds like. So, what did I miss? Is there an aspect we didn't cover through this conversation around Cybus?
No, I think like that's for us. It's just from the moment we're able to go out to the US, we're able to travel. You will see so much more of us, and I can't wait to talk to anybody that's interested. I know already, all the conversations I'm having offline with a lot of people in the US and in Canada, it's amazing, and the support so far has been awesome. So anyone that's listening right now that's been supporting us, thank you for that, and you will definitely see more of us.
So one last question: besides commercial trucks, where else can your technology be used?
So this is there's probably a whole new episode we can do on this one, where it's because it's based on a diesel combustion engine. So in a sense, and we're trialing at the moment on generators. We're trialing it. We're doing some initial, really early testing on marine vessels, and we know that it actually does the same thing for jet fuel. So the aerospace is one of the other ones that we're looking at a bit further ahead. We don't want to run before we can walk. So, but we do know that we can tackle all these industries as well. Well,
very good to hear about all this. I mean, obviously, we're both in the diesel world. We hear all this talk about electric truck. Diesels are going to be here for a long time. It seems like you guys are going all the right avenues. Hopefully, you can direct a little bit of traffic your way for people to learn a little bit more about your product. And again, I enjoy following you guys so far. I met you on LinkedIn. I've been following you for a little bit here. I'm excited to keep following you guys to see where the journey ends up. It's always fun to watch kind of from the back seat to see what happens with companies. So I wish you the best of luck. And again, thank you very much for coming on the show and everything. So with all that said, we end every episode. We always say, hey, it's not just diagnostics done right. It's also taking care of your truck, trying new technologies. There's always something new out there that could potentially save you money, make the earth more green, have an ROI, get better fuel economy. A lot of things out there. It's always good to kind of try them out and learn about them. So I appreciate you coming on the show for this episode.
Thanks for having me again. Perfect for doing this.
Awesome. So thank you, audience, very much. And we'll call this a wrap for the DL.